All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr. updating on the Terence Crawford contract situation, specifically where the fight's going to happen, and he's sounding very, very optimistic about the fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division on the day before, the day of the really big fight in the lightweight division between Gervonta Davis and Rolly Romero. Errol Spence Jr. is at the fight. Reporters caught up with him and asked him some questions that give us some insight on what's going on with the biggest fight in the world, and that is the one between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for watching this video. If you would not mind, accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. If you're a longtime subscriber, thank you for your support. Hit that like button before you leave. It's greatly appreciated. Also consider supporting the channel in what the new way to support the channel, which is the super thanks. If you do that, that would be greatly appreciated as well. And with that, let's get into the video. All right, man. So things on a daily basis are starting to sound better and better. Errol Spence Jr. Gave an interview to Ellie Sethback over on ES News, talking about the Terence Crawford fight, or what the update on the Terence Crawford fight is. And he said that his face, everything that he said looked like he believed that fight was going to happen. And he said, what message do you have for fans? The interviewer asked what message Errol Spence Jr. had for fans. And he said, buy the pay-per-view. Go to the fight. If you can't get to the fight, buy it on pay-per-view. So he's in selling mode. That to me sounds like, they're not trying to announce it quite yet, but that announcement is going to be coming soon. That is what both Terence Crawford sounds like and Errol Spence Jr. sounds like. And of course, you had Steven Espinoza, who maybe about 2 weeks ago were saying that that the only thing they had left to do to get over and make that fight was for the parties involved to be reasonable. So let's hope that takes place. That's Terence Crawford also said some things over the last week that made people believe, or made me believe, that deal, that they were actually able to get something done, and that they're just waiting on announcing it. Now, one of the key factors that came into play or was mentioned in the interview was where the fight would be. And Errol Spence Jr., man, is standing by his word when he says that he's willing to bend to make that fight happen, because he was asked, do you think the fight needs to happen in Dallas, or should the fight happen in Las Vegas? And Errol Spence Jr. was like, man, it doesn't make him any difference whatsoever where that fight happens. He says, look, that fight can he said it can happen in Vegas because, they're both going to have to get in the ring. And when the crowd and all that stuff is out there, it ain't going to make any difference. Those guys are going to have to the two of those guys are going to have to fight. So, one of the things that Terence Crawford said he wasn't willing to do, which was fight in Dallas, and the need to have a neutral stadium. That seems like Errol Spence Jr. is not going to stand in the way of that. So I think we're going to get this fight, and I think we're going to get this fight announced soon. Now, that's just my feeling. So don't get all upset about it. Now, name your sources and all that type of stuff. Look, in this particular instance, I'm reading what these guys have said. Every person involved with the fight says that they believe this fight can happen. Steven Espinoza is a party involved with Showtime, where the network is going to be, and he said the fight is likely to happen. It just needs, people are not going to get paid Mayweather money. They just need to be realistic with it. Terence Crawford is saying, look, that's the fight that he wants to get done. He tweets out a message that is pretty much implies that, talking about all I care about is greatness. Right. If you're familiar at all with Terence Crawford and the way Terence Crawford communicates on Twitter, it's a very, very cryptic messages, but, not too hard to figure out when he says, look, man, I want to be great. All I care about is greatness. Not too difficult to get to. It's not the money. It's not the fame. It's people knowing that he's a great fighter. He then later on the same week says, you guys are going to have to, pretty soon going to have to admit that I'm the best. No need to just keep hating on me, admit that I'm the best, and he can't wait to show people, that he's the best. So Terence Crawford, everything seems like it's a go from Terence Crawford. Errol Spence Jr. had an attitude about Terence. He said, now when Ellie Sethbeck said, what do you have to do? What do you have to say to Terence Crawford? He said, man, ain't nothing else to say to Terence Crawford. It's just time to fight. That's what Errol Spence Jr. said. And nothing else to say to Terence. It's just time to fight. And that is something that he said on his Twitter maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he stayed true to it. Hadn't really said anything else to Terence Crawford about it. Hadn't really said anything about the fight until this particular interview. I am just super excited about it because I know that this is the best fight that we can get in boxing. And it is such a rarity for this to take place. And so, like, for example, we had another opportunity to get a fight like this maybe 2 years ago, I guess in 2000, a little longer than that, maybe 2019 with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And, the guy that had the 3 belts, and was doing the pay-per-views, Anthony Joshua and his camp did everything they could to make sure that fight never happened, right? Went from talking about Deontay Wilder, like Deontay Wilder didn't deserve the fight, to, once people were like, man, that's ridiculous. This is the fight to be made. Over a course of a couple fights, they changed their story from that to Deontay Wilder's ducking us and making silly offers to Deontay Wilder when the money is clearly there for the fight. Like a flat fee. What was that flat fee of like $14.5 million, not giving him anything on the pay-per-view, not giving him anything on the gate, not giving him a rematch clause when Anthony Joshua had one. All of those type of things necessary to shut that fight down. You have Canelo Alvarez, who could be fighting a multitude of excellent fights that people would really be interested in to see, but he's just skirting around the outskirts looking for gimmick historic fights that nobody's asking for. And I think that that's one of the things that really make fights great, is that it's not just, look at this guy, look at the belt that he holds, but it's the fact that you have people that are actually engaged in debates and engaged in dialogue around who the best between those two fighters are. And regardless of the belts and all that other stuff, they sit down there and fight. So it looks like, the longer we go, the more and more it looks like this fight is going to happen. There were reports about Terence Crawford asking for a lot of money. My hope when I heard that was that, that was just his starting point. And so hopefully, that stuff doesn't come to breaking the fight down. But from everything Errol Spence Jr. says, man, it looks like it's close to getting to be a go. But it's really good to know at the very least that there isn't an issue with Terence where Terence Crawford is saying, I don't want to fight in Vegas. I don't want to fight in Dallas. The fight is going to have to be Vegas or somewhere neutral. And Terence Crawford saying, Errol saying, I don't care about that. Let's make the fight happen. But anyway, keep you updated as things go on. Can't wait for the big fight tonight. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.